Welcome to this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market. This report is for the week of September 15th to the 21st. I really don't know where the time goes. I cannot believe we are just flying through September, and the fall market is definitely underway. We are still somewhat in the beginning, but we are starting to see some real changes. So be sure you stick around for this report, especially if you are an active buyer or seller in the New York City real estate market, or you're thinking about becoming one. Okay, we're going to get started right now with the luxury market. There were 21 contracts signed last week. That is 10 more than the previous week. The number one contract was 5B at 70 Vestry Street. It was asking $22.5 million. It was listed at the beginning of this month. This is a condo with 3,242 square feet. It includes 4 bedrooms and 4.5 bathrooms. It has a corner 34-foot great room that faces the Hudson River. 70 Vestry is a 14-story, 46-unit condo that was designed by architect Robert A.M. Stern. The amenities include doorman, concierge, garage, fitness center, squash court, and 3 pools, an 82-foot lap pool and 2 hot and cold plunge pools. There's also a library, billiards room, and children's playroom. The number 2 contract was a townhouse at 80 Horatio Street. It was listed at the beginning of this month. That was quick. It also attracted 6 bidders. The inside story on this purportedly is that it sold somewhere in the $10 to $11 million range and is supposed to close in 2 weeks. That is pretty quick for not just this market, but really pretty quick for our market, period. This is a 5-story, 25-foot wide house. It has a little over 6,100 square feet. It needs to be completely gutted. Wow. I'm still kind of shocked by that sale, but that's amazing. And what it is suggesting is that buyers for something special are willing to do work. They're willing to take on very big projects. This is going to take probably a year to redo this townhouse, maybe longer, maybe a little bit less. We'll see. Moving on. The total weekly asking price sales volume, $144,474,000. The average asking price, $6,879,714. Median asking price, $6 million. Average discount from original ask to last asking price, 7%. And the average days on the market, 610. As we've talked about, the luxury market properties do take longer to sell, so that's why we get those high numbers on that. Okay, that's it for this week's look at the luxury market. Any questions, as always, post them below. Reach out to me directly at Sotheby's. We're going to move on now and take a look at what's going on in Manhattan and Brooklyn at the end. I'm going to wrap it up, share some additional information with you about where we seem to be heading, what's going on with mortgage rates, price per square foot, things like that. So be sure you stick around for that. As I mentioned, the fall season is definitely underway, and what we are seeing so far is that the listing volume remains heavy. We're also starting to see the demand pick up, which is what we would expect to see. We're seeing this at least a weekly basis, and hopefully that'll translate to overall liquidity next week. There are some early signs that the buyers are returning. Perhaps this is connected to some lower interest rates, although they did tick up a little bit after the Fed cut. So we'll see. We'll get into the data now for the Manhattan market. The supply last week was up 1%, 512. Contracts signed up almost 42%, 197. Off-market properties, 173, up a little over 29%. As I said, the supply does remain heavy. 1,779, that is up 112% and change for the month. Contract signed 680, that is down almost 29%. Off-market rose almost 7%, 661. And this Market Pulse latest reading shows that we're down almost 1% from last month, just a smidge up from last year, we see we're kind of back in that neutral, balanced market between supply and demand. And the liquidity pace is 30-day moving window, 680 contracts were signed over the last 30 days. That is down almost 22% from last month, down a little over 2% from last year. That is it for the moment. For Manhattan, as I said, at the end, after Brooklyn, I'm going to wrap it up, share some additional information with you about the entire market and some strategies to help you be successful if you are an active buyer or seller or are thinking about it. So Brooklyn is a slightly different story in this fall season. It's certainly kind of, let's say it's taking its time. The supply has risen and is up, certainly from last year. The pace of this new inventory, though, may begin to ebb soon. The demand on the weekly basis remains at a seasonal low, and while we expect it to start picking up any day now, it does feel like it is taking some time. Hopefully with the mortgage interest rates going down, although they did tick up after the Fed cut, buyers will be encouraged by the rates and by market conditions to jump back into the market. Hopefully we'll start to see that. Certainly by October would be great. So here's the data for Brooklyn. The supply, 236, down 6%. Contracts signed, 112, up just under 1%. Off market, 90. That is up almost 58%. For the month of supply, 890. That is up a little over 26%. Contract signed, 455. That is down almost 21%. Off market, 325. That is up almost 7% for the month. Market pulse, relatively balanced. Not a lot of changes here between the supply and the demand. So we're seeing it hold around the same relatively neutral place. Liquidity pace chart down 15% almost from last month and up just under 2% for last year at 455. That is it for Brooklyn. Any questions specifically about Brooklyn or Manhattan or the luxury market, you can always post those questions below. You can always reach out to me directly at Sotheby's. Always happy to answer your real estate market questions. Right now, we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at the entirety of the market, mortgage rates, some additional information, as well as strategies for success. So now we're going to wrap this up. As I said, 21 contracts signed in the luxury market. That is up 10 contracts. One of those was in the trophy category, priced at $10 million and above. 15 were condos, 5 were co-ops, 1 was a townhouse. There were 13 contracts uptown and 8 downtown. The supply in Manhattan, 6,640. In Brooklyn, 3,478. Pending sales in Manhattan, 2,991. Brooklyn, 1,848. Off-market total in Manhattan, 4,041, and in Brooklyn, 1,909. Average days on the market in Manhattan and in Brooklyn have risen a bit, so 76 days in Manhattan, 57 days in Brooklyn. Liquidity pace, 680, Brooklyn, 455. So regarding the charts for this week, we're going to be taking a look at specifically at how much new inventories hit the market this year versus last year from September 1st till now. As you'll see, in Manhattan, new listings have been rising mainly in downtown, while the midtown has actually seen fewer listings than last year at this time. So fall is typically a heavy listing season. It doesn't look like those listings are distributed quite as evenly as we might want them to be. It could translate into leverage for buyers in some segments, so keep your eyes open there. Taking a same look in Brooklyn at the pace of new listings from September 1st till now, compared to last year, we're mostly seeing in the prime areas, Brownstone East, Brownstone West, and Northern Brooklyn, we are seeing a slower listing pace compared to last year. However, in Eastern Brooklyn and Southeastern Brooklyn, there are a few more listings than last year. So again, look for leverage if you're a buyer or a seller. You may see that depending on where the listings are most saturated. So I'm going to continue to report on all of this, and this data will help you when you are formulating your strategy for your own real estate search or real estate sale. We saw the mortgage interest rates fall a bit. Then when the feds cut their rates, we saw the mortgage rates come back up a little bit. So I'm going to share some information. This is anecdotal. I don't have any data on this one yet, but I am hearing from mortgage experts who are closer to the epicenter of information. There is some thinking that mortgage interest rates could begin to go back up. So let's get right into strategies here. If you are a buyer and you are seeing that the rates are kind of going down, the rates have gone down. If you're seeing this and you want to try to take advantage of that, this could be a good time to do it. If the mortgage pundits are correct and the rates look like they're going to start to go back up again, this could be kind of a window of time, a moment that you can capture to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Assuming that you found a property that you love and you've got a deal or you're negotiating a deal, if you can secure a lower rate, that certainly would be good. Definitely getting more inventory, more in Manhattan than in Brooklyn. But again, there are a lot of properties out there to choose from. If you're a buyer and you see something you like, you may want to take advantage of it while the rates are still kind of lowish. Have fallen back a bit. Sellers continue to be positioning yourself as best in class. You want to be sure your asking price is part of your strategy, that it looks compelling to the buyers that are out there, and that your property is being well presented. That really is the key to success in a market like this, where it's kind of balanced, right? It's kind of a neutral market. So you have to do something to stand out and to grab the attention of the buyers, especially when you first come on the market. You make the most money in the first 30 to 60 days of being on the market. Statistically, you just have to negotiate less and get closer to your asking price. Apologies if I sound a little stuffy. It's because I am dealing with that inevitable change of season cold that seems to be floating around out there. I'm sure it won't last long, but it is annoying, so sorry for that. So that is it for this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market. As always, my thanks to the Olshan Luxury Report and to Urban Digs. The work they do helps me to help you to make great decisions. I'll be back next week with the very latest news on what's happening in the New York City real estate market. In the meantime, take care.